Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Atlantic Council. I'm delighted to have so many good colleagues, ambassadors, and guests with us today. Welcome to the Atlantic Council. I'm Damon Wilson, Executive Vice President here, and we are delighted to welcome you here today for a conversation with the President of the Republic of Kosovo, Hashim Thaçi. It is a real pleasure to have you here with us. And we're delighted to welcome back the Ambassador Flora Sitoku. Thank you. You've been such a great partner. We love having you here with us. Thank you for being here on this, I think, what is an important conversation. President Thaci is in Washington here on an official visit. You've seen it covered in the media. He met earlier this week with Secretary of State Pompeo, with National Security Advisor Bolton. He's been to Dallas to meet former President Bush. And I'm delighted to say on that itinerary, he's now here at the Atlantic Council. The United States and Kosovo, as you know, have a very close relationship dating back to Kosovo's independence a decade ago. We are celebrating here this year 10 years of statehood for Kosovo in 2018. For me, it's poignant to be having that occasion here from the stage of the Atlantic Council, where 10 years ago I served at the National Security Council working on the issue of Kosovo as Senior Director for Europe. It's remarkable to see how far you have come. Congratulations. Kosovo has made many accomplishments in that decade, but it also faces some difficult challenges and many unresolved issues which we will discuss today. We're on the cusp of potentially another historic marker for this young nation, the possibility, the prospect of a comprehensive settlement with its neighbor Serbia. So before I introduce President Thaci for his remarks, I just want to remind everyone today that we're on the record. I want to welcome those that are following this conversation online and encourage everyone to participate in this by tweeting at the Atlantic Council using the hashtag #BalkansForward. If you followed the Atlantic Council's work, you understand that we've made a strategic commitment to Southeast Europe, a strategic commitment to the Western Balkans, in part because we continue to believe that the U.S. role and engagement in the region is catalytic for the kinds of reforms and integration we all want to see in the region, but also because it's our view that cooperation in the Western Balkans is among the best opportunities for transatlantic cooperation, U.S.-EU cooperation, in our time in a world that is very complicated and where there are many difficult issues. We're going to turn to hear from His Excellency Hashim Thaçi, who was elected to his role as President of the Republic of Kosovo in February of 2016. Before becoming president, he served as First Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs. He served as Prime Minister of Kosovo from 2007 to 2014. Among many achievements for his country, he led the political dialogue between Kosovo and Serbia, which in 2013 resulted in the signing of the Agreement on Normalization of Relations. He is now engaged in high-staked talks on a settlement, comprehensive settlement, which we'll hear about. The president has brought much vision, courage, and determination to this task. So please join me in welcome President Thaci to the stage. We look forward from hearing from you, and then we'll sit down for a conversation.
Thank you very much, Damon. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor for me to be back in the Atlantic Council. This great institution is well known for providing what we need most in the world today, a platform for dialogue and debate. I want to thank you for keeping your focus in Kosovo and in the region. As a president of Kosovo, it is an honor each time I come and visit US. I am proud to be the president of the most pro-American country on earth. If you don't know US politics, you will be lost in the streets of Pristina. We have a Bill Clinton statue next to the George Bush Boulevard. In fact, I just come back from one-day visit to Texas, where I spent some wonderful time with President Bush. Earlier in the week, I had wonderful meetings in the State Department, White House, Senate, Congress, etc. I will never forget, I will never forget the role of the United States in the Balkans. I belong to the generation of Europeans whose lives were changed forever because of the role of the US in Europe. But, ladies and gentlemen, the world has changed. One political world is dying and a new political world is still in an embryonic phase yet to be born. Europe is at the crossroads with many developments that raise question marks about the future. The Western Balkans has remained hanging in a limbo. In the reality, Kosovo and Serbia find themselves seeking to achieve a final peace agreement. We are exploring possible workable ideas. In terms of the agreement, nothing is agreed yet. Agreement between Kosovo and Serbia is the most sensitive step for the Western Balkans. This process is not about one side losing. Is this possible? I think it's very difficult, or almost impossible. But even in these circumstances, I see light at the end of the tunnel. Why? First, both countries, I am convinced of this, know that we cannot continue the way we are today. The current status quo for both countries will not hold. The current frozen conflict damages both countries in all fields in life, in economy, in development, in security, in integration, etc. In fact, in the Balkans, you either move forward or backwards. Status quo never stands. The dialogue received support, but also received criticism in our own societies and internationally too. I am fine with this. It was expected. This is healthy for the general debate, but also for the process itself. In particular, in bringing more transparency and more responsibility for the leadership in both countries. But in this process, the easiest thing to do is to criticize. And the most difficult thing to do is to find a way to reach the agreement. By reaching an agreement between Kosovo and Serbia, we will have less populism in our region, less voices calling for the war and tragedies, less hatred and revenge. And maybe most importantly, the agreement will have a transformative power within my country. Leaders will no longer be able to win votes and hide behind the problem with Serbia. Our institutions will finally have to focus more on internal reforms, on fight against corruption and crime, on jobs and economy. Finally, a chance for the new leadership will emerge. A new leadership that will only work for the future. What is the main goal of the dialogue process? First, a final peaceful agreement for full normalization of relation and reconciliation between two countries and between two peoples. An agreement that is internationally legally binding. A comprehensive settlement, which means mutual recognition between Kosovo and Serbia. Without recognition, this agreement or any other agreement will not having a meaning. An agreement about the issues, missing persons, the displaced and the refugees, property, community rights, voting rights, education and healthcare, Serb Orthodox Church, economic cooperation, and so on. The agreement must be final and not a temporary one. It will be an agreement that would bring more comfort for our neighbors and the region. There will be no borders along the ethnic lines. There will be no exchange of population between countries. We will maintain the multi-ethnic spirit and reality of Kosovo and of Serbia. Ladies and gentlemen, I have heard some mentioning peaceful ethnic cleansing. This is ridiculous. We heard the same in February 2008, just before declaring independence of Kosovo, that the Kosovo Serbs will live in convoys out of Kosovo. In reality, not a single individual family left Kosovo when we declared independence. In Kosovo, we were and we remain committed to build a civic democracy in our state. Some friends of mine, diplomats, analysts, and academics, have mentioned the Pandora's box. Kosovo's case will neither open nor close the Pandora's box. Pandora's box, it is already open. In fact, it will only set a good precedent. The settlement between Kosovo and Serbia will help beginning to close the Pandora's box in the Western Balkans. And nobody can put parallels between Kosovo and Bosnia, only if we allow a Republika Srpska to be established in Kosovo. Then we will build parallel between Kosovo and Serbia and Bosnia. I will not allow this. We should not allow this. But dear friends, the time is running out. Now is the moment. Now is the momentum to act, to achieve the settlement. What benefits will the agreement bring for the two countries and wider? Kosovo and Serbia will recognize each other. Both countries will have a clear and safer EU perspective. We will produce more peace for the whole region. Our energies will be focused in developments, in reforms, in economy, in education, integration, and in cooperation. Kosovo will be recognized by 5 EU NOC recognizers with realistic possibility for full membership in the United Nations. When Serbia recognized Kosovo, nobody can be a greater Serb than Serbia and continue not to recognize Kosovo or to block Kosovo in the Security Council. With the agreement, also the EU wins and the US. On a geostrategic level, this would be a win for the Western democracies. The influence of non-Western forces in the region will be diminished. All countries in the Balkans will finally be anchored towards the West. Most of all, the winners are our respective countries. We need the support of everyone if we are to make this a success. The time is now. We have leadership both in Kosovo and in Serbia that wants a peace agreement. We have an EU that wants and works for a peace agreement. Kosovo today is free and independent. We have a democracy that we have worked hard to build. But I have to come to realize that independence is not enough if you are isolated. We need to be part of global community. And to get there, we need global recognitions. I have also learned that in politics, you have to make a compromise, even if you are 100% right. Ladies and gentlemen, 20 years ago, this day, I was in the mountains, in uniform, fighting for my freedom of my country. I have seen with my eyes the brutality of the war. Thousands were killed in Kosovo by Serbian forces. 20,000 women were raped. Many are still missing. I will never, ever forget. People of Kosovo will never, ever forget. But as leader, I believe I have a different kind of war to fight now. This is about building peace. This is about ending a century-old conflict once and for all. I know it is not so easy. I know it is not so popular, but it's the right thing to do. We need to move forward now, without hesitation. Thank you very much. Thank you, Damon. Thank you. Thank you. Good.
Please, yes, we'll grab a seat here. Mr. President, thank you very much for those remarks. I'm really struck, your understated tone, I think, belied that very, very powerful message. We've just heard the President reflect 20 years ago, where you were 20 years ago, and now, as you put it, you're fighting a different kind of war, a war to build peace. This is a pretty difficult, serious set of issues. Thank you for sharing where you are on the negotiations and the dialogue. And while I know much of that remains quite sensitive, can you give us a little bit more of a sense of the contours of what is this comprehensive settlement going to entail? You said no borders along ethnic lines, no population exchanges, maintain the multi-ethnic nature of the state. But what does this mean for Kosovo's borders? What does this mean for the other elements to make this a lasting, enduring peace? And I think the President is going to maybe speak in Albanian. We'll have a translator who will...
Thank you very much, Devon. Unë e potencohë dhe në fjalimin tim hyrës, domosdoshmërinë e arritjes në marrëveshje të paqes që përmbyll një herë për gjithmonë konfliktin shekullor Kosovë-Serbi.
As I mentioned in my introductory speech, we need a settlement that will bring to a close the conflict between Kosovo and Serbia once and for all.
Pse tash më ndodh?
Why exactly now?
Se më hes kemi në mënyrë anilaterale, vetëm Kosova. Kemi pas mundësinë e Rambuje, kemi dështuar, Serbia ka refuzuar, kemi pasur mundësinë e Vjenë negociatat të hequr nga presidenti Atisari, Serbia ka refuzuar. Tash ekziston një vullnet reciprok me gjetë një zgjidhje paqësore dhe me përmbyll konfliktin një herë për gjithmonë.
Until now, this wish for peaceful was more unilateral. We had an opportunity in Rambuje, but Serbia did not sign an agreement. We had an opportunity in Vienna, during the Vienna talks. Again, Serbia did not accept the agreement. It's only now that both sides seem to be ready and willing to come to an agreement.
Marrëveshja nuk do ta ketë vetëm një pikë, por do të jetë komprehensive.
It's very important to know that the agreement will be comprehensive. It will not deal with only one point.
Dhe do të përmbyllen të gjitha çështjet e hapura Kosovë-Serbi.
And it will close every open issue between Kosovo and Serbia.
Si dy vendet e pavarura dhe sovrane.
As two independent sovereign countries.
Ne po diskutojmë për çështjen e të zhdukurve.
We are talking about the missing persons.
Për të zhvendosur që dëshmë u kthyen shtëpi dhe pronat e veta, Serb dhe komunitetet e tjera.
Displaced and refugees from Serb community and all other communities.
Kishën ortodokse serbe.
The Serb Orthodox Church.
Zhvillimin ekonomik, infrastrukturën, shëndetësinë, edukimin.
Economic development, infrastructure, healthcare, education.
Pronat.
Property.
Një proces I gjerësishëm.
So it's really a very broad, comprehensive process.
Por duhet ju them shumë qartë.
But let me be also very clear.
Nuk do të ketë kufi në baza etnike.
There will be no borders along ethnic lines.
Nuk do të ketë shkëmbim të popullatës.
There will be no exchange or expulsion of population, displacement of population.
Nuk do të, prandaj edhe thash, kush flet për pastrimin etnik pasor, më të vërtetë për te situatës qesharake.
This is why I said earlier, whoever talks of peaceful exchange of population is that's beyond ridiculous. Those remarks are beyond.
Rritë kësaj, nuk do të jetë kufim bazë etnike, nuk do të ketë shkëmbim popullatave, nuk do të ketë në asnjë rrethon zhvendosit njerëzve.
So again, there would be no borders along ethnic lines, no exchange of population, and no displacement of people.
Por kjo mund të jetë një precedent pozitiv për rajonin, se dy vende në mënyrë paqësore me vullnet po flasin për një marrëveshje paqësore. Gjë që s'ka ndodhur më herët në Ballkan.
This is actually a good positive precedent for the region because we have two sovereign countries willingly agreeing peacefully for an agreement. This has not happened before in the Balkans.
Unë përmend edhe fjalimin tim hyrës. Ndoshta ndonjëherë politike drejt 100%, po nëse do të më marrësh me dikon do të më pas një kompromis.
And again, as I said earlier, sometimes you might be 100% right, but if you want to come to an agreement, you have to be ready for compromises.
Okay. Pse po bëj këtë proces?
So why are we at all involved in this process?
Ky proces nuk ka popullor aq shumë.
Which is not very popular after all.
Por është më i drejtë më shumë për vendin.
But it is the most right just for my country.
E bëj për dy gjëra.
I do this for two issues, 2 points.
Or three. Yes. E para, përmbyllet konflikti një shekullor.
First of
Njëherë
all,
për gjithmonë.
once and for all, we will close this century-old conflict.
2. Ndon njohja reciproke si vendet pavarur dhe sovrane, Kosovë, Serbi.
We will have mutual recognition of both Kosovo and Serbia as sovereign countries.
Dhe 3, sigurisht do të mund të atënërsohemi në OKB, nuk do të mund të kemi veton e askujt në Këshill Sigurimit, si
And
Kosovë.
3, as Kosovo, we will be able to become full member of the United Nations. There would be no veto right exercised by anybody in the Security Council to prevent us.
Por gjithashtu, nuk mund të ketë marrëveshje që njohin njëra tjetrën, dy vende pa definuar dhe kufirin.
But of course, part of this agreement where two countries recognize each other, part of this agreement should be actually drawing the border between two countries.
Siç kemi bërë me Maqedoninë, me Malinezi, me të tjerët.
We've done this with Macedonia, we've done this with Montenegro and other countries.
Serbia nuk na dhuron njohje më për me vullnet të mirë ose për dëshirë të Thacit apo dikujt tjetër.
Yeah, Serbia will not simply give recognition to Kosovo out of goodwill, of benevolence, or just to do a favor to Thaci or to anybody.
Prandaj momenti u tash dhe duhet lëvizje. Më është mirë që kemi një mbështetje edhe të Bashkimit Evropian edhe të SBA-ve me lëviz përpara.
Now is the right momentum, and we have full support of US, of EU to move forward. So now is the time to actually move forward.
So, Mr. President, you've addressed this in some respects, but how do you address those either critics or skeptics that are concerned, as you said, in some respects, a precedent? This could be a precedent, and you pointed to agreement between two countries. But those that are concerned about what this could mean for Bosnia and Macedonia, how do you address those that are quite concerned about the potential ramifications throughout the region?
Unë kam dëgjuar dhe dëgjoj me vëmendje çdo ditë edhe skeptikët edhe kritikët të procesit.
I actually listen carefully, and I give consideration to all the criticism from skeptics, from those who are against or opponents of this.
Por dëshiroj të theksoj që dëshiroj të falenderoj mbështetësit.
But first, I would like to thank those who support this.
Para se me dal të kritikët.
Before I move to talking about the criticism.
Dhe ftoj gjithë njerëzit me na përkrah për me arrit sa më shpejt marrëveshjen.
And I would really like to invite everyone to support us to come to an agreement, to reach an agreement.
Edhe mund të them diçka.
Let me just state something here.
Çdo ditë më tepër unë po shoh që më tepër njerëz janë të gëzu për marrëveshje se sa që kanë më hydhur. Shumë pak janë që kanë më hydhur.
Every day I see that more and more people are growing increasingly more happy about the prospects of reaching an agreement, and there's less and less those who will be unhappy that an agreement has been reached.
Por kritikët janë disa edhe miq të mi, qoftë në politikë, qoftë në për botën akademike apo të analistëve, që natyrisht kanë pyetje legjitime, çështje legjitime që i ngritin.
Some of the critics are actually my friends coming from the world of diplomacy, politics, media, or academia, and actually they have legitimate questions to ask.
Jam I sigurt që ata mu po më ndihmojnë shumë.
And
Që të bëj një proces edhe më të mirë.
for sure, they are actually helping me because they are helping me build an even better process.
Që të jetë edhe më transparent, edhe më I përgjegjshëm, edhe më I suksesshëm, edhe më I shëndetshëm.
So a healthier process with more transparency, more responsibility by the leaders.
Por duhet të them konkretisht në pyetjen tuaj.
So let me try to answer your question.
Unë kam diskutuar edhe me presidentin e Malit-Zi, edhe kryeministrin e Maqedonisë, edhe autoritetet në Shqipëri. Gjithë përkrahin arritjen e marrëveshje paqësore Kosovë-Serbi.
I met with the president of Montenegro, prime minister of Macedonia, leadership in Albania, and they all fully support attempts to reach an agreement with Serbia.
Kështu që do të ketë më tepër paqë në rajon.
So this agreement will definitely bring more peace in the region.
Te Bosna.
Let me talk about Bosnia as well.
Unë kam dëgjuar historinë e Pandora's Box.
I've heard this Pandora's box story many times.
Nuk qëndron krahasimi Kosovë dhe Bosna.
But really we cannot put parallels between Kosovo and Bosnia.
Sepse është një konflikt edhe më I hershëm, mendoj që kriza do të zgjatet edhe për te zgjidhjes së problemit të Kosovës.
It's a conflict that started before Kosovo, it's a war that started before the war in Kosovo, and it's a conflict that will last even after an agreement between Kosovo and Serbia.
Dhe nuk do të ketë asnjë efekt reciprok. Ndoshta vetëm për pozitiv.
And the only possible implications for Bosnia might be positive ones.
Reflektime mund të ketë vetëm nëse ne në Kosovë e lejojmë më funksionalizu ideja e Serbisë për Republika Srpska që e defunksionalizon Kosovën, gjë që nuk do të lejoj.
If we try to draw parallels, that would be if we allow within Kosovo something like Republika Srpska to be established, which was attempted by Serbia, which would make Kosovo states totally dysfunctional. And this is something that I will not allow.
Tjetër, Bosna realisht në Bosnë ka dallime të mëdha etnike.
In Bosnia there are still deep divisions along ethnic lines.
Mos pajtime të mëdha për rregullimin e brendshëm.
Very deep disagreements about internal regulation of the state.
Ndërsa ne po zhvillojmë një proces paqësor lidher të dy vendeve për një marrëveshje të vullnetit të përbashkët.
In our case, it's two countries willingly discussing to agree on a peaceful manner to come to an agreement.
Tjetër kritik është lehtë me kritiku, po cila ideja tyne, cila është alternativa tyne, cila është projekti tyre, përpos qëndrojmë si jemi. Kjo gjendje është e paqëndrueshme.
And though I understand criticism, I really don't see any visions or alternatives being given. And usually their reply is that we only have to continue the way we are, which, as I said, is unattainable. We cannot continue like this.
Por të them drejtën, tash 20 vite unë më rrit në politikë tu kritiku, edhe në Rambuje kur kena bo marrëveshjen, edhe në Vjen.
But to be honest, the last 20 years, actually, I've grown as a politician by being criticized constantly. Being criticized in Rambuje, being criticized in Vienna.
Por Kosova kam rri deri këtu e lirë dhe pavarur përmes kompromiseve.
But Kosovo has come so far being free and independent through making compromises.
Kam qenë I kënaqur në Rambuje me tërë dokumentin? Jo.
Was I happy in Rambuje with the final document? No.
Në Vjen? Jo.
In Vienna, again, no.
Por kanë qenë më të mira të mundshme për atë rrethon, për atë realitet.
But it was the best possible solution for the current circumstances.
Dhe tash është një momentum historik.
Now we have another historical momentum.
Nëse mund të arrijmë do të ndodhë mrekulli.
If we manage to come to an agreement, this will be a miracle.
Do të fitoj Kosova, Serbia, rajoni, EU-ja, US. Nëse nuk ndodh, jemi humbë zgjedh.
Kosovo will be a winner, Serbia will be a winner, the region, EU, US, all will be winners. But if we fail to come to an agreement, we will all be losers, actually.
Por do të ketë edhe ati që I duar trokatin dështimit.
But I'm sure that there would be those who will applaud our failure, actually.
Well, Mr. President, let me come back. I mean, you are an experienced politician. You've learned the difficult nature of both compromising and then getting support for your compromises. How do you, I see a pathway in which you, President Vučić, come to a conclusion. How do you gain the political support you need? How do you gain the support at home for what that agreement's going to look like? Obviously, you know Your Prime Minister Haradinaj was in town and has spoken a little bit differently on this issue than you, as you well know. What do you have to do with the agreement after you were able to conclude it to bring along your people, your parliament, your government?
Sot jemi bindur që mbi 90% anëtarë të kabinetit qeveritare mbështesin idenë për marrëdhënien e marrëveshjes paqësore në Kosovë.
I'm convinced even today that 90% of the ministers of the government in Kosovo do support an agreement between Kosovo and Serbia.
Të gjithë në Kosovë duan që ndodhë njohja reciproke Kosovë-Serbi. Si vendet pavarur dhe sovrane.
Everybody in Kosovo wants to see that Serbia recognizes Kosovo as a sovereign country.
Çdo kush e don Kosovë, antarësimin e Kosovës në OKB.
Everybody in Kosovo wants to see Kosovo as member of the United Nations.
Prandaj moment që zyrtarizohet kjo marrëveshje dhe janë të qartësuara këto dy gjëra, atëherë gjithçka do të ndryshojë edhe më tepër për pozitivitet.
And the moment that these two goals are crystallized, everything will be even more supportive of the agreement in Kosovo.
Ne do të veprojmë një ekip negociator më të gjerë politik.
We will have a broader negotiating team in Kosovo,
që do të përfshihet edhe opozita dhe shoqëria civile,
which will include also representatives of the opposition, political opposition, and civil society.
Që të jetë një proces gjithëpërfshirës.
So the process will also be comprehensive in the sense of representing groups of interest.
Dhe natyrisht gjithçka duhet kaloj përmes parlamenti.
And eventually everything will have to be approved by the parliament.
Por përsëri do të ketë ndonjë kritik ose refuzues ose kundërshtues. Që është normal.
Even then, there would be those who will be opposing it, who will be criticizing this, and I think this is all very normal.
Por një gjë që unë mund të jetoj me to.
I can live with this.
So even as you are navigating, which are extraordinarily tricky diplomatic negotiations, Kosovo failed in its bid to join Interpol just recently, and we've seen a reaction play out in the region where now your government has put, I think, 100% tariff on Serbian goods coming into the country. Tell me a little bit, explain to our audience a little bit about what's happening with these tariffs, and how are you managing to keep on track a major historic rapprochement agreement when you have still the skirmishes on each of these different international battles, the Interpol last week, tariffs now?
Po pikërisht këto synime që të përmbyllin problemin një herë për gjithmonë.
This is why actually our goal is to close the conflict once and for all.
Njerëzit janë lodhur duke I bërë problemin njëra tjetrës, Kosova dhe Serbia, që t'ia vështirësojmë jetën e njerëzve.
People are tired of seeing Kosovo and Serbia trying to be an obstacle for each other.
Prandaj derisa vazhdo kjo gjendje status quo me probleme ditore, atëherë do të kemi vazhdimisht problematikat, do të kemi tensione dhe akuza të ndërsjellja e bllokatë të ndërsjell Kosovë-Serbi.
As long as we continue this status quo, we will have similar fights, disagreements, and attempts to block each other.
Prandaj edhe zhvillimet e fundit që kanë ndodhur e rrshtojnë edhe më tepër nevojën për marrëveshje paqësore historike Kosovë-Serbi. Që ta thjesht lirohemi nga njëri tjetri.
And these recent developments are another evidence, another argument why we need to work even harder to reach an agreement between Kosovo and Serbia. That will completely change and make the relationship much more relaxed.
Në këtë rrethon askush nuk ka fitues.
In these current circumstances, nobody is a winner.
Sot mas letë me fitu duartrokitje, qom Prishtinë, qom Belgrad, nëse flasim kundër njëra tjetër si lider politik.
Though today the easiest way to be applauded by the public opinion is if you criticize each other in Pristina or in Belgrade.
Rruga më e vështirë kjo që unë jam përcaktuar që të arrijmë një marrëveshje paqësore që ne kupton njohjen reciproke.
And the most difficult part is actually the one that I'm promoting, and that is reaching an agreement.
Natyrisht unë jam mirë njohës ndaj gjithë leadershipit në Kosovë, por edhe partnerëve tjerë.
Of course, I'm very grateful for the support coming from the leadership in Kosovo, but also partners outside.
Dhe kjo nuk do të pa një vullnet të Prishtinës së Beogradit.
This wouldn't be able to achieve if there's no goodwill both in Kosovo and in Belgrade.
Mas leti është me kritiku.
Again, the easiest thing to do is to criticize.
Por çmimi po paguajmë qytetarët, do ta paguajnë gjeneratat e ardhshme. Nëse humbim këtë shans, do të humbim dekada.
But if we lose this opportunity, we will pay a hefty price. Generations to come will pay a very hefty price. We will lose decades.
Kështu që problematikat e fundit duhet të përshpejtojmë procesin për arritjen e marrëveshjes përfundimtare.
So these current problems should serve as a motivation to increase our efforts to come to an agreement.
So say you do succeed and gain that political support. You mentioned in your remarks the transformative power of such an agreement. What does the day after look like, both for Kosovo and Serbia? What becomes your agenda if you succeed in actually coming to a final peace agreement here?
Unë përsërish besoj që do të mund të arrihet marrëveshja.
Again, I'm confident that we will reach an agreement.
Dhe ky angazhim i joni nuk bëhet vetëm për të mbyllur një konflikt, një shekullor, por për të hapur perspektivë.
But our efforts are not only to close a century-old conflict, but also to open new perspective.
Dhe në të njëjtën kohë, askush më nuk do të mund të fitojë vota në Kosovë, në Serbi, duke akuzuar një tjetrën, si patriota.
First of all, nobody anymore, neither in Kosovo nor in Serbia, can win votes by attacking or criticizing each other and pretending to be a patriot.
Por do të fokusohemi në zhvillim ekonomik, mirëqenie, krijim vende të punës dhe reforma.
And all the attention will be then in economic development, in prosperity, opening jobs, reforms.
Tjetër, në këtë gjendje që jemi Kosovë dhe Serbia, askush nuk do të na pranojë as NATO, as në Bashkimin Evropian.
In current situation where Kosovo and Serbia find themselves, nobody will accept us neither in NATO nor in the European Union.
Ne po shohim Bashkimin Evropian, po punojnë për modernizim, për reformim, dhe nuk na merr kukush me problemet e Ballkanit në familjen evropiane. Këto ne kanë thënë qartë, edhe Kosovës edhe Serbisë.
We look towards the EU. We are conducting reforms, working towards EU, but EU has told us very clear that they will not take us inside until we resolve all open issues.
Prandaj ne shohim momentum shumë të madh që prodhojmë argument pozitiv të dy vendet tona për me lëviz drejt Bashkimit Evropian, e Kosova dhe NATO.
So we both would produce positive arguments for our attempts to join the EU and for Kosovo to join NATO as well.
Let me ask another question, and I do want to bring in the audience here, so just catch my eye if you've got a question for the President. You've met with Secretary Pompeo, with National Security Advisor Bolton. You've had very high-level meetings here in Washington. Can you give us a sense of where things are, what you're asking from the United States, what you need from the United States, what's the nature of the top of the issue of your agenda here?
Ju dini, relacionet e Kosovës me SHBA-t janë speciale, pavarësisht administratave, por ndihem shumë mirë që edhe në takimet që kam pasur në ditët e fundit, edhe me sekretarin Pompeo dhe me ambasadorin Bolton, është mbështetje e qartë dhe e plot për konsolidimin e shtetit Kosovës dhe mundësinë e arritjes së marrëveshjes paqësore Kosovë-Serbia dhe SHBA do të jenë të involvuara.
As you know, Kosovo and the United States have a special relationship, regardless of administration. I had very good meetings during the week with Secretary Pompeo, with Ambassador Bolton, and they all confirmed full support of the United States for consolidation of the state of Kosovo and for reaching an agreement between Kosovo and Serbia, a comprehensive agreement.
Natyrisht procesi u hiqet nga zonja Mogherini, por do ta kemi mbështetjen e plotë të SHBA-ve.
Of course, the process will be led by Madam Mogherini, the High Representative, but it will have full support of the United States.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask one more question. I've got a list here, but if I can catch, I'll sort of identify whoever has the mics to come back for folks. I saw a couple back there and back there. Okay, those two. The security forces. Where does this, where does this issue stand, and how do you take forward your aspirations to have your own army to provide your own security?
Kosova ka shënuar progres dhe ka arritur të themelojë një forcë të sigurisë të standardeve të NATO-s me këshilla dhe rekomandimet vazhdueshme të NATO-s, të ekspertëve të NATO-s.
Kosovo has managed to build a security force which is a force of NATO standards with full support and coordination and advice by NATO experts.
Ka ardhur momenti që të transformojmë Forcën e Sigurisë të Kosovës në forcat armatose të Kosovës dhe një mirënjohje SBA për mbështetje. Ne kemi qenë gatshëm edhe më herët, jemi sinqert.
Now's the time to transform the Kosovo Security Force into armed forces of Kosovo, and I would like to say thank you to the United States for supporting us in this, though we were ready actually for this transformation long time ago.
Por e theksoj përsëri do të angazhohemi në një proces të koordinuar me SBA dhe NATO, do të jetë një forcat armatose multietnike, edhe me përfasim gjinor multietnike 10% të komunitetit serb dhe jo serb dhe 5% të gjinisë femrore.
It will be a force, it will be a transformation in full coordination with US and with NATO. It will be a force which already is a multi-ethnic one with representation of communities, 10% of non-majority communities out of those 5% of Kosovo Serbs. It will have proper representation of gender balance.
Do t'i shërbejmë paqes edhe në Kosovë dhe në rajon, por edhe krah për krah me ushtarët amerikanë dhe të tjerë.
It will serve to building peace and maintaining peace in Kosovo and in the region, and it will be side by side with US and NATO forces.
Dhe natyrisht nëse arrijmë marrëveshje me Serbinë, do të jemi edhe djemt dhe vajzat e Kosovës, djemt dhe vajzat e Serbisë në misione pasohet përbashkëta.
And when we reach an agreement, Kosovo and Serbia, then we will have boys and girls from Kosovo and boys and girls from Serbia serving in international missions around the world.
That's a remarkable vision. Remarkable vision. I think we had a question
sooner
back
or later
there.
it happened.
All right, I see a lot. So we'll start in the back, and then we'll come over here. These two women, Jeff as well, and I. Okay, yes, we're going to take a couple questions at a time, please.
My name is Ivan Gelovski. I'm a journalist for the Balkan Insight. And I was wondering, have you read the Prime Minister Haradinaj's piece in Washington Post? How do you see the fact that he published it while you were here? And is that some sign that you two are fighting for US support?
All right, if we could bring the mic to the front, and we'll come right here, please. Yes, on this side. Okay.
Should I continue
Yes,
with
please.
the question?
Yes, please. We'll take a couple at a time.
So I can ask in Albanian and in English. And then if I could ask you one question.
Continue just in English.
Okay, I can do it in English.
His English is better than my Albanian.
Mr. Thaci, there has been a lot of speculation since the idea in the summer floated about border changes, whether you and Mr. Vučić have talked in the back channels and whether you coordinated to float this idea on your side. So I wanted to know, have you communicated with him? Have you gotten a signal from him? Or have you talked indirectly through negotiators about whatever the agreement will look like? Any kind of, getting an idea that makes you feel so confident that now is the moment.
And let me just pick up a third one right here, and then we'll come back and answer them. So if you could just pass the mic right here. Thank you, and introduce yourself, please.
Thank you. I'm Eva. I'm a grad student and a student fellow at Georgetown. So I have a few questions. Now that you reiterated,
just one question.
Okay. Now that you reiterated that there will be no exchange of territory, so North Mitrovica will not be exchanged for Preševo, as much as I understand. How will you integrate North Mitrovica into Kosovo, and how will this actually new agreement be that different from the Brussels dialogue?
How to avoid Republic of Serbia inside. All right, why don't we come back to you about the Prime Minister's op-ed, the back channel conversations.
Okay, Shebat dhe Kosova kanë raporte speciale dhe të jenë të përjetshme.
First, Kosovo and the United States have a special relationship will be lost forever.
Dhe theksova, ndihem shumë krenar që jam president i një popullate më pro-amerikane në botë.
And as I said before, I really feel very proud that I'm the president of the most pro-American country in the world.
Dhe kjo nuk është vetëm nga nevoja, por është mishëri me vlera.
And this is not coming only out of necessity, but more from actually accepting the values that the US represents.
Kosova do jetë unike në këtë proces.
Kosovo will be united in this process.
Maksimalisht.
as much as it can, of course.
Por marrëveshjet paqësore kanë edhe kundërshtarët e vet.
But every peace agreement
Nuk
in
jemi
any
vend
country
special na.
around the world, and we are no different from other countries around the world, there would be those who would be opposed or against it.
Por do të krijojmë rrethanat për një bazë gjerpolitike dhe institucionale për arritjen e marrëveshjes dhe implementimin e marrëveshjes, pa dallime liderësh apo opinionesh.
But we will create conditions for a broad consensus, institutional one, for reaching an agreement and then for implementing the agreement.
Jam I kënaqur me opinionin e qytetarëve të Kosovës.
I'm very happy with the opinion of the citizens of Kosovo, where they stand.
Por nëse kërkoni që unë të arrini 100% mbështetje, nuk di cili lider në botë ka arrit mbështetje paqësore me një vend që në konflikt një shekull, mbështetje 100% për atë.
But if you expect me to receive 100% support of everybody, then I honestly don't know any case in the world where two countries or two leaders, after a century-old conflict, reached a peace and agreement with 100% support of their own
constituencies. Keq dikush nëse mendon se kum harru që Serbia ka vrarë mbi 13 civil shqiptar.
Everybody who believes that I forgot that Serbia has killed 13,000 Albanian civilians in Kosovo, those are mistaken. I have not forgotten.
Apo rreth 20,000 gratë dhunuara.
I have not forgotten about 20,000 victims of sexual violence, raped women.
Rreth 40% infrastrukturës shkatruar.
More than 40% of infrastructure in Kosovo totally destroyed.
Unë gjithë ato I di dhe I ndjej.
I know this and I feel this.
Nuk harrojmë.
And this is something that one cannot forget.
Por I kujtojmë.
We will remember this.
Po kjo nuk jemi vendet e vetme që kemi qenë në luftë dhe që kanë arrit paqë.
But at the same time, we are not the only countries in the world that have been in war in the past and have reached a peace agreement.
Ne nuk mund mbesim tash duke atakuar një tjetrën për të kaluarën, por duhet diskutojmë për të ardhmen.
We cannot continue attacking each other about our past. We have to actually work together for future.
Unë vetë kam qenë një nga ata që ka fillu luftën kundër Serbisë dhe kam qenë shef politik I UÇK-s, por e urrej ata që flasin për luftë dhe tragjedi, kushdo që tjetë.
I myself was one of the first to start the armed struggle in Kosovo, and I was the leader of the political wing of the Kosovo Liberation Army. But today I hate all those who talk about conflict and war.
E di se bërja paqes për ne si lider ndonjëherë më rrezikshme se sa bërja luftës.
I know that for us leaders, making peace can sometimes be more dangerous than actually starting a war or waging a war.
Por pengesat për arritjen e kësaj marrëveshje paqësore që ne kupton njohjen reciproke si vendet pavara, kudo që dalin duhet të tejkalojnë dhe do të tejkalojnë.
But any obstacle that we might face on this process of reaching a comprehensive agreement that will bring mutual recognition must be, we must find a solution for all those obstacles.
Te pyetja e dytë.
Second question.
Çështja e kufirit.
The issue of the border.
Do të jetë një nga çështjet.
It will be only one of the
topics
of the comprehensive agreement.
Por ma gjeni ju një vend ose dy vende që kanë arrit marrëveshje reciproke për mirësinë një tjetrën pa e definuar kufirin.
But find me an example where two countries have reached a peace agreement without sitting down and defining where the border between them is.
Prandaj ne jemi prej ashtim.
We are not an exclusion of this.
Unë kam nënshkruar marrëveshjen me Malin e Zin 2015 për demarkacion. 3 vite është rezistuar mos mo votu në Parlament Kosovë sa e marrëveshje. Kemi humbur 3 vite dhe pastaj të njëjtën është votuar nga pikërisht kundërshtarët e atij procesi.
I was the one who actually signed the border demarcation agreement with Montenegro, and for 3 years there were opponents, those who opposed the ratification of this agreement in the Kosovo Parliament. We lost 3 years, we literally waited 3 years, and after 3 years the same people who were against the agreement voted the same agreement in the Kosovo Parliament.
Prandaj unë nuk mund të jetoj me të kaluarën historike.
I cannot live with the past. I don't want my people to live in the past and with the past.
Por të kemi një njohje reciproke, të kemi fuqisi të mirë, natyrisht definim të së drejtës për secilin.
but to have mutual recognition, good neighborly relations, and respect for each other.
And the third question is?
Well, now that
Sorry.
you said that there will be actually an exchange, I would like to know how will you be compensated? I would really like to know how you will be compensated for losing North Mitrovica, which is the most urban, most industrialized area of Kosovo, in exchange for a rural area with very poor population, between 45 and 65 of the population in Preševo.
You speak for Kosovo? Or?
I'm asking you.
Because nobody speaks about that. And will happen never. Thank you.
So let me take the final round here, this gentleman here and this woman here, and our last question with Jeff. Just very quickly, I'm sorry, this gentleman here and the woman right here. Very quick questions, because we have to wrap.
Nice to see you, Mr. President, one more time. Ivica Puljic from Al Jazeera Balkans. My question is about tariffs. Your government imposed tariffs for products from Bosnia and Herzegovina and Serbia. Why? And can you tell us why, of course? And European Union and US government, State Department urge you to cut those tariffs off, to delete them. Are you going to do that? And can you explain the situation?
Terrific. And just very briefly, a question right here, please.
Okay, para uroj që Bosnia e Hercegovina ta njeh Kosovën.
First of all, I would like to see Bosnia and Herzegovina recognizing Kosovo.
Dhe ndije mirë që kanë filluar zëra atje pro njohjes pavarësisë.
And I'm very happy to hear that there are more and more voices in Bosnia calling for recognition of Kosovo.
Sepse tek e fundit jemi viktima të një entiteti agresor.
After all, we are both victims of the same aggressor.
Në anën tjetër, e theksova, këto çështje ditore aktualisht që i kemi, problematika do të te kalohen me vullnet mirë, edhe të Bashkimit Evropian, edhe të SBA, por edhe të vetë akterëve rajonal.
And these daily issues that we are facing will be overcome with goodwill of both regional actors and the goodwill of EU and US.
Thank you.
And final comment, question here, please.
Hi, my name is Sarah Ampolsk with Kyoto News. I'm also a master's candidate at American University. Thank you so much for being here. I'm sorry to double down on this, but I just want to try asking about what you said about no population exchanges one more time. President Vučić speaks of, not an agreement between Serbia and Kosovo, but an agreement between Serbs and Albanians. He speaks more in ethnic terms. He seems to not be on the same page with you about that in terms of population exchange. So how can you assert so strongly that that won't take place?
Nuk dua të komentoj deklaratat e askuj.
I honestly wouldn't like to comment statements of anybody.
Por marrëveshja nëse arrihet do të jetë mes dy shteteve të pavarura sovrane Kosovës dhe Serbisë.
But the agreement, if it's reached, it will be an agreement between two independent sovereign countries, between Kosovo and Serbia.
Në Kosovë, qytetarët janë shtetas të Kosovës, janë kosovar, shqiptarë, serb, malazez dhe tjerë.
Citizens of Kosovo are of all ethnicities, Serbs, Albanians, and all other communities.
E ritheksoj, nuk do të ketë kufi në baza etnike.
I reiterate, there will be no border along the ethnic lines.
Nuk do të ketë zhvendosja po shkëmbim të qytetarëve në baza etnike as kur fare.
There would be no exchange of population or displacement of population along ethnic lines or any other background.
Ndërsa spastrimi etnik pasor është shumë qesharak.
And honestly, that peaceful ethnic cleansing, that's really ridiculous.
Dhe në anën tjetër, përsëri për kutinë e Pandorës. Kjo visa ndihmon mu mbyll ajo kuti.
And again, this leads us to this discussion about Pandora's box. And the agreement only helps to close Pandora's box in the region.
One more.
Mr. President.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you very much. I know there's a lot of more questions out there. Let me just, before we wrap, let me just say, first of all, thank you for coming here. We have a lot of conversations on this stage with leaders. It's very rare that we have a leader on this stage having a conversation who's in the midst of something that is truly historic, that is unfolding right now. If we think about what you said, where you were 20 years ago in the mountains, 10 years ago, independence, and now potentially on the verge of a peace settlement, the story of former adversaries becoming allies is the powerful story that stands behind Europe's story, behind NATO's story. And so you're in the hot seat. You have the difficult job ahead. but I'm struck by how much determination, how much courage and resolve you bring to this task. I think here at the Atlantic Council, our community is invested in the success of your country, and we're going to follow this closely, and thank you for your time here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Thank you, the President.
Thank you. Thank you.